Welcome to another episode of Inquiring Minds. I'm Steve Harper, and with me is my amazing co-host, Donna Carlin. Donna, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this. I know I say that all the time because the source is an unusual source. And I know I said that in the past about Albus Dumbledore and his words of wisdom. This is not him. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, it's the source, of course, for Morse. No, I don't know. That'll give the tip to who you're about to reveal, but I'm not as gifted as he is. So tell us what we're talking about today.
I don't know who is as gifted as he is. It was a post that I saw. So I looked up to see who the author of the quote was, and it was Theodor Seuss Geisel, better known as Dr. Seuss. And it's not a rhyme and it's not a poem. It's just some wisdom.
Yeah.
And the wisdom is sometimes you will never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory.
Wow.
That made me take pause.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
That
powerful.
it is very powerful because how many times does something happen and later on you go, I wish I said something. I wish I did something. I wish I paid attention and actually engaged with that. I wish I could have that opportunity now. And I discounted it then. Doesn't that make you take pause and think for a moment? How often does this happen to you a day?
Yeah. No, I like that. I choose to look at it from a slightly different perspective because I think at the end of the day, a lot of us tend to gravitate. We've talked about this before to the negative aspects of what's transpired or what happened, and I wish I had indicates you missed the opportunity, and maybe you did. But much like our last episode, where you're putting more positive thoughts towards what you're doing and the actions that you need to take. The way that I would choose to do it is I'm glad I did this, to recognize that moment, to cement those opportunities, to have, I wish I might, maybe I could say I wish I had said something more, more significant in the moment, but I was in the moment, and I'm glad I was there, even though I might not have come up with all the words that I would have, loved to have shared at that time in that meeting with that interaction. I'm glad I was able to experience that time, spend that time with that person, or be involved in that conversation. And so I look at it from a really different perspective in that I don't think we stop long enough to actually look at those things in terms of memory. Even just going back, what was the greatest thing you accomplished last week?
Mhm.
Why was that a good thing? And why is that something that stands out right now, here and now, in this moment as a good, positive memory? As opposed to the lack of, or I wish I had, or the regret. And you've said it before, and it's now one of my favorite phrases that I use with just about anybody is the stop shooting yourself to death, right? Should have done this. When we approach life from the perspective of regret, we generally find more regret. If we approach it from, yeah, maybe it didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to, but it went the way it did because I'm so lucky to have been there at that moment and that time. And so when you first posed this quote, it really struck me as this is a great opportunity for us to be intentional in the moment about past moments or past experiences, past conversations, past people, that we've met, like we talked about on an airplane, and just be grateful for the opportunity that presented to you in that particular moment and let that stand out as a good memory as opposed to the alternative. But that's my take. I'm curious as to your take.
Yeah. No, I hear what you have to say. I think that it's in the interpretation. Definitely, I'm not looking at it as good or bad at all. I'm
Yeah.
looking at it as the value of the memory
Yeah.
itself, the value of that moment that became a memory. There's a reason why we remember it. It either had a profound impact on us in some way, made us regret something, made us celebrate something.
Yeah.
We didn't realize the power and the impact of it in the moment as it was happening. And a lot of it is choice, for sure. sometimes if it's something horrendous, we want to forget about it and we don't want it to be a memory. It will be a memory. There's no question. And it's also a celebration. And how often, Mr. Ripple, does something amazing happen and you say, this was great that this happened, and you're on to the next thing already.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
very little celebration of that. And you look back, 10 years from now or 10 years from when that happened, and you go, that was a really cool day when I created this in my company.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
that you're absolutely right. We hold on to the more negative things a lot easier than we do the good things, and it's because we're not generally encouraged by anyone. Hopefully, by us, we're doing it right. But for our audience to flip that script and look at things from a different perspective, because the negative ones are always going to be there. But the imagery I think about is if you think of all the negative things that have occurred to you, those bad memories that are attached, those are kind of like, that 1,000 pound weight that is wrapped around your backside and dragging you down and holds you present in not a very good place, right? However, a good memory is like a helium balloon or a hot air balloon that lifts you up and gives you a different view and a different perspective, makes you light, makes you feel like you could do anything, like you could fly. And if you were thinking about your day to day life, which would feel like a better result for you? To feel like you're bogged down, or that you are free and you can, look and go just about anywhere. And so I kind of choose to look at it from that perspective. And it's not something that I've always done, but it's something that I've been very intentional about doing now and trying to
hmm
celebrate those moments a lot more. It's funny because the negative weight that we have from bad experiences, bad memories, they tend to always be super present and prepared to jump in at a moment's notice and say, hey, remember that didn't go well, or your last, conversation with that person, it was just off the rails, or you failed at this, or you didn't do well at that. Those things are more than happy to bubble up to the surface, which then compromises and undermines everything you're doing right now, right? Just hold you down like that 1,000 pound weight. And I choose to say, hey, I'm going to ignore that because that's past and I can't do anything about it. Maybe it didn't go the way I wanted it to, and that's okay. Now I learned something. But when I approach it from the what did go well, or how could I, enjoy what did, what positive thing have I just recently gone through or experienced, and I celebrate those in the moment now, that opens me up for other positive moments, other positive memories that I can create. And I just feel like, the interesting thing is we don't celebrate the wins nearly enough for long enough to let that fill our tank back up and keep us moving forward in a positive direction.
it's just so funny listening to you because I actually do weird things with some of my clients, and we celebrate failures to such an extent that they laugh their heads off. So it's not about pushing it aside and choosing not to listen and remember something that I failed at or didn't go well for me or a traumatic event. We make it so ridiculous in how we celebrate, how we totally screwed up,
Sure.
that it gets to the point of laughter, so that that memory of failure or whatever they want to label it as no longer has any weight to them. They
No
just start
power.
grinning
Yeah.
thinking of that conversation, because I'll walk in and I go, okay, we're having a celebration, and they'll look at me and they go, I just bombed at this. I go, yep, and we're going to celebrate every aspect of how you bombed to such an extent that you're never going to go there again. And you're going to see the ridiculousness in how much weight it has on you. It is the fear factor. It's the protective factor. I'm going to protect myself and not go there again just in case I fail again. You celebrate that failure and you have this real
Holds no
celebration. We
power. Yeah.
literally go out for dinner. We do the whole 9 yards, and we go, okay, it's only a failure, and we talked about this. If you do nothing about it, hiding it away is doing nothing about it. It's ignoring it or avoiding it. if you actually look at every single thing, what is so perfect about what you did wrong? And we just go through it and we do like a post-mortem, so to speak, to the point of ridiculousness.
Yeah.
And it has no more weight, like at all on them. So that's the value of the memory that we bring to the table, the value of looking at it through a myriad of perspectives, even humor, to the point where you're actually separating from it and no longer having it dictate your future choices.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, there's so much value in how we look at our memories as well as what happened in the moment.
Yeah.
Because in the
I love
moment, we
that.
are going to react, right? We're going to
Sure.
react. Or we're going to ignore, or we're going to shy away from. And then we kick ourselves, or we go, that was amazing. How could I do it again? The full spectrum. The bottom line is, Steve, it's self-awareness to the nth degree.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing that I like about that, and one thing that I just want to make sure our audience really pays attention to is, bad memories often have embarrassment or shame attached to it, or, there was, maybe fear, or think of any negative emotion and you probably could attach it to that memory. And what's great about what you're doing through that technique, and I applaud you for it, is we don't run from it. We no longer give it power. It may not have gone the way that we expected it to, and that's okay. But what you're doing in that environment with your coaching clients is you're replacing that negative memory with something else. And that something else is, yep, I learned from it. Yep, I should do better. Or, yep, I can chalk that up to, never doing that again. Right. But I'm going to have some humor and some different emotion attached around it. The piece that I think our audience really needs to pay attention to is we, most of the time as individuals, I do the same. I'm sure, Donna, you do the same in certain moments. We we end up being anchored to that negative memory, and we attach that emotion, and we often deal with it in private. So having a coach or having a good friend or someone that you trust that can help you head that off at the pass and be able to talk through it, get over it, and move on is super critical, because when you do that, you're cutting the cord that's holding you to the weight, and it's gone. And if you
That's
can do something like what you're suggesting, hey, I'm attaching humor to this piece of this situation that occurred, but now I'm buoyed and I'm able to go up. I'm able to go up and away from it. And I think that is so critical. We as human beings gravitate to so much of the negative that we often have. Well, this memory holds me down, this other memory holds me down, this was a failure, that was a failure, and next thing you know, you have thousands of things that are just holding you to the ground and itching at you constantly about why you can't accomplish what it is that you want to do next, or why you
yeah.
shouldn't get back on that horse and try it again. And that's the problem, right? And that's when, and I would encourage our audience to look, when you know that you have more than a handful of those ropes around your backside that are holding you down, that's when you need to seek out the help of a coach or some professional guidance to get through those things. Because when you do and you break through that, it is the most invigorating, positive thing you can ever experience in your life. And not only do you not only can leave those things behind, but you'll be able to replace it with far more positive experiences. And you'll put your attention on the things that really matter, which was the good memories, the good experiences, the good things that incite you and inspire you to keep carrying forward and moving beyond anything that ever wants to try and hold you back. And I think
Oh,
that's really,
definitely.
really critical.
It brings to mind, I know we talked about Harry Potter before. One of the Harry Potter movies, I can't remember which one it was, where they were supposed to think of what they were most afraid of. And then they were supposed to make the ridiculous out of it. So, and then the cupboard would open, they let out whatever it was that scared each of the kids the most. And they would, dress them up in their mother's clothes, or put like funny shoes on them if they were spiders and they were like struggling to walk, to the point where they started laughing. and they were able to confront that which they feared the most. Because humor, when used properly, could be an extraordinary tool to deal with
Sure.
all kinds of trauma and difficult situations. Um, it's also allowing ourselves to view ourselves as human. We aren't perfect.
Yep.
Somebody made a sarcastic comment to me the other day, because I said I didn't have an issue with my family. They said, sure, your family's perfect, because, they were having issues with theirs. I said, far from it, but they're perfect for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And
Yep.
how we interact with each other is perfect for me, but none of us are perfect. And I don't ever want to be viewed as perfect, because that is not only a hard act to live up to, but boring as anything, because I get into trouble and I cause trouble. I mean, that's my middle name.
Yep.
So, it's all the viewpoint. View yourself as human, and know that everything that you do, whether successful or not, teaches you something about you and life that you would not know any other way. And that's the value of the memory. It's, what is the lesson that it taught me? What did it teach me to do more of, to do less of, to honor, to celebrate, even if it's a failure, to celebrate?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, I think
that's
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 great.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to love to know from our our listeners. Um, well, you could read some of it on our YouTube channel. I really would invite you to share with us, when did something really occur to you as valuable because it was a memory that you kept bringing back over and over again. That would be really cool to hear, and to find out, what did you do with it? How did you honor that lesson? And I think it will invite other people to do the same. If you share, then other people will go, oh, didn't think of that. This happened with me. And I keep going back to that moment, or that experience. What did you do with it? How did you
Yeah.
learn? How did you grow because of it? I'd love to hear.
Absolutely. And how do they do that?
How do they do that? Exactly. Good
No, how do they
questions.
share? How do you
Oh,
want
how do they share?
to?
No, I thought you meant, how did they honor it, is
But
what
that
I thought
too,
you
yeah.
meant.
But
That too. Okay.
so that we see it and can talk about it and have conversation around
Go to our Facebook group. Join our Facebook group, Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper. Let us know what your thoughts are, any ideas for other conversations. We really love hearing from you, and we answer. Those who post will attest to that. We always answer, and we always think about what you have to say. Or obviously our YouTube channel, where you can subscribe, and you'll know when the next episode is live, which is usually a Tuesday afternoon. Eastern time anyway.
it.
And because if you're overseas, it wouldn't be Tuesday afternoon. And then our websites. Mr. Ripple could be found at ripplecentral.com. And I'm at Donna Carlin with a K.com, and get to know what we do, and you'll understand our way of thinking by looking at some of what we post.
Absolutely. And two things. It's not Donna the Troublemaker Carlin.com. It's just DonnaCarlin.com.
My
Just to
mother would
clarify.
argue with you on that point.
Her her middle name is that. Her reputation is known by that, but it's not really part of the
That's it.
domain. But yeah, just to be clear on that. And I'm going to offer our listeners a very special bonus, because this is something that I think that you just need permission to do, and I'm just going to throw it out there. So if you're watching on YouTube or on the Facebook replay, or you're just listening to this in the podcast platform, I am handing you a pair of invisible scissors that you can utilize. They are your shears that you can cut the ties to those bad memories by sharing it on our Facebook group or in our comments on YouTube. What some of those things are, how you're dealing with it, just bringing it out of the darkness and putting it on the table. That is actually a huge step forward in terms of how you are just no longer associating with that and not allowing that weight to hold you down. So those invisible shears are yours to keep, and use them anytime that you need them. But we would love to have that participation. We'd love to hear what you thought of this episode, how you're bringing some of this, to the table for your own purposes, maybe conversations with your own, family, friends, or your teams back at work. And we are just so grateful that you're a part of the Inquiring Minds family. and our audience. And we'll be back again very soon with another episode of Inquiring Minds. But until then, Donna, you've got your scissors, I've got mine. Now our audience has theirs. So let's go forth and see what we can do and what damage control we can fix by
Yeah.
doing taking advantage of this great topic. And we'll see you again on the next episode.
Have a great one.